What are some things that people claim happen all the time, but you've never seen? A disabled person exiting a disabled bathroom stall. Women complaining about a man holding the door for them. Where I live, everyone, male or female or otherwise, holds the door for everyone else, and I've never seen anyone angry about it. Or being shouted at by a woman on the bus or train when they offer them a seat. I've seen people say no thanks, I'm getting off at the next stop, but I've never seen anyone get shouted at for it. I've never even heard of this. I like to think of myself as a gentleman. I would offer my seat to anyone, regardless of gender. If that person started shouting at me, I wouldn't know how to react. Based on what I was told growing up, I really expected there to be a lot more random strangers offering me free drugs. Flat Earth. Never discussed with people who believe in Flat Earth. It's hard for me to believe this ignorance still exists. Know a guy who is serious about it. Also thinks giants once walked the earth, and all sorts of other fun stuff. Lately, he's mixed his newfound religious leanings in there too, so anyone telling him otherwise is a servant of Baal, or whatever that means. He's actually a decent dude, or at least was, and I didn't even mind all the kook theory so much before he got all militant about it. Well, there is sufficient evidence to suggest there were significant height differences between some tribes of people, some of whom were much larger than we are today and would have been giants to some of our shorter ancestors, not to mention some hobbit-sized humans as well. That said, it sounds more like he's talking about the angelic Nephilim 5-story tall variety, not just the holy crap that guy's like 9 feet tall kind. Always a treat talking to people who almost completely disembark from the logical train of thought. I live in Florida and work at a hotel on the beach. In all the years I've lived and worked here, I have never seen a whale. Apparently they're all over and swim up and down the coast all the time. I've never seen one. They mostly stay under the water. No, they glide above the water but are blue so they blend in with the ocean. Source: Am Floridian. And then everyone stood up and clapped. The closest I ever got to this was on a job search. A company emailed me that they found my resume on Monster and were very interested in meeting to discuss an opportunity in their office. Would I be available this Thursday at 10 a.m. to meet with Scott? Absolutely. So I show up at 10 a.m., a girl rides up the elevator with me and gets off on the same floor. We both walked into the same door, the receptionist greeted us and the girl said, "I'm here to meet with Scott." I thought, well, that's a little weird, but maybe she's super early. The receptionist looks at me and I said, "I'm also here to meet with Scott. I have a 10 a.m. She escorted us to this conference room where I see 30 other people. Now my alarms are starting to go off. She tells us to find seats and watch the presentation. Scott will be in shortly. So, sitting there in silence for 15 minutes before I finally lean over to the girl and ask, "What job are you interviewing for?" She answered, I'm not entirely certain. I asked, "Well, what's on your resume? What job did you think you were being offered?" She answered, "I'm a mechanical engineer. You?" "I'm a software developer." So another 5 minutes go by when Scott walks into the room. He's super excited to see us, and this presentation will take about an hour. He's asking people their names and making an effort to use their names whenever possible as he's handing out copies of the PowerPoint slides. Tells us that we can take notes. I start flipping through the slide deck and notice right away that all of the slides are either blank or otherwise devoid of content. They might have a title on them, but the title is just words. No explanation whatsoever. Things like company history and compensation, but otherwise empty. He tells us that there will be time after the presentation to ask questions, but in order to get done before lunch, he requests that all questions are held until the end of the presentation. "Scott?" I said. "I do have a quick question before we get started. There will be plenty of time after the presentation for all questions." "Scott, I promise that this question will be quick and very relevant. Are all the positions available commissioned insurance sales?" "Well, we are an insurance company." "That's not what I asked, Scott. Are all the positions available commissioned insurance sales?" "Well, yes." I stood up and gathered up my resume and folder and said, "Thanks for wasting my time, Scott," and I walked toward the door. Scott rushed to beat me to the door and opened the side closest to me, causing me to pause briefly. As I did, I heard a great deal of grumbling and paper shuffling behind me. I turned to look and literally everybody in the room except for 4 dudes in 3-piece suits at the front of the room had stood up at their tables and were putting their stuff in their briefcases and notebooks. I exited quickly enough that I got the elevator to myself, but looking back on it, I should have waited because I definitely want to know what their elevator conversation was. Oh my god, this exact same thing happened to me with H&R Block. I applied for a receptionist position on Indeed, and they called me in for an interview. I get there, and they were close to 30 of us in one room. and all they did was talk about hiring tax people and showed a PowerPoint on getting licensed and needing us to take their $400 tax course, which I was 1000% not interested in. I asked if there was even a receptionist position open. She said, "We're accepting resumes for it." About half of us left after that announcement because we had applied for the receptionist position, which didn't exist. Winning the top slot machine progressive jackpot at the casino. They say it happens regularly, but I've never seen it or met anyone who has actually won it. You only have to ensure that a payout on the machine will occur at a specified frequency for every prize possible, i.e. if a payout of $5 has a 50 to 1 chance, it has to occur on average 1 in 50 times. As such, you're allowed machines that only pay out the jackpot 1 in 10 trillion times, so long as you can prove that it would eventually occur with that frequency. I did some digging, and now I know that China wants to regulate lockboxes/loot boxes in online games such as Overwatch. Blizzard needs to show the Chinese government the exact math behind any drop chance. It's actually good, I think. A trans person trying to spy on or assault me in the bathroom. Ditto. Though honestly, I'm not sure I'd notice a trans guy in the men's room. It's not like we pay much attention to anyone in there. I haven't seen any of the "OMG, they're out to get us" people present a single bit of evidence that this has happened anywhere, ever. And you'd think logically it would have happened once, but nothing anywhere. Meanwhile, there's plenty of evidence of trans people being assaulted by cis people in both the women's and men's room, and cis women being harassed out of the women's room because they were a bit butch and were assumed to be trans. It's almost like it got nothing to do with the actual safety and everything to do with trying to stop trans people from ever leaving the house. Someone is being made fun of/talked about negatively at the gym. 5-time weekly gym goer for 10 plus years and have never seen it. And I always wear only one headphone while listening to a book, so it's not like I wouldn't hear it if it happened. My gym buddies are some of the nicest people I've ever met. Just happens that they're also in the 1,000-pound club. For me, it's vegans bringing up being vegan all the time. I have vegan friends, and you'd never know that they were vegan until you notice they don't eat any meat products. I was vegetarian for a couple of years, and I was out eating with a group of people. One of them wanted me to try their burrito, which had beef or chicken in it. All I said was, "No thanks, I don't eat meat." This person was absolutely shocked. I then listened to a 10-minute rant about how meat is so good and vegetarians are ridiculous because they only do it for attention. They're always shoving it in your face and judging people who eat meat, all because I politely declined a burrito. Yep, you just mentioned that you don't eat meat and suddenly they feel the need to justify themselves. Like, sorry if you're insecure about your choices, dude, but don't pull me into it. People being rude to breastfeeding mothers in public. Anytime I see a nursing mother, everyone is very supportive. A friend of mine was terrified by a screaming crazy woman who followed her around a mall in Florida because my friend was feeding her daughter in public. Scared the hell out of her. I'm amazed nobody said anything to the crazy lady. I feel like such an over-the-top reaction would cause someone to defend the person being harassed, but that could just be me. I have yet to see a guy get into a bar fight and take out an entire gang with cue sticks. I've never met a guy who's single because he was too nice, and everyone who has said that to me has been either creepy or turned into mega douches once you show them a tiny bit of kindness. Often people that say that they are too nice are often fooling themselves or completely delusional. More often than not, they're a total asshole. The nicest guys I know have never had any trouble finding a date or sustaining relationships, nor do they consider themselves nice. In contrast, guys who blame their lack of romantic success on being nice aren't actually nice. Rather, they're guys with generally ugly thoughts or beliefs who take pains to not show it. They think that by not giving voice to their ugly thoughts, beliefs, or demands, they're being nice, and while I'm a guy, I have a feeling that women can immediately see through that facade. You can be truly nice and not have luck with women if there are other variables involved, deep shyness, poor hygiene, etc. All I'm saying is that from my experience, niceness by itself is simply not an explanatory variable for poor romantic luck. It's a cop-out to blame it. UFOs. You'll encounter a lot of UFOs if you suck at identifying flying objects. Hey, what was that? I don't know. It was either a bird or a bat, or I couldn't tell. UFO sighting. Walking in on my parents going at it. I mean, I learned to knock on doors before entering. Quit your knocking. Get some life experience on ya. No, let him stay. The boy must learn. Never seen a neckbeard and fedora on the same person. Our community colleges have plenty. Yeah, seriously, take 2 computer science classes and you'll see enough to last you a lifetime. Cow tipping. This is what I searched the thread for. Total myth. Funny how adamant some people are that it exists, but they've never done it. But they insist their friends have. There are a few first-hand reports, but it's amazing how even here people are saying they know someone else who did it. My summer camp did have to ban snipe hunting after some kids caught one. They showed up with an opossum in a pillowcase. Literally nobody has asked me out, ever. I'm a girl. Not unattractive. Last year of uni. I do ask other people out, just it's never happened the other way around. Anyone claiming to be triggered or needing a safe space in a non-ironic or mocking manner, people with PTSD can be triggered. Everyone seems to fantasize about what they'd do if an armed burglar broke into their house in the middle of the night, but that is ridiculously unlikely unless you live in a really bad neighborhood. Real burglars wait until nobody is home, or they think nobody is home but one kid missed his flight. The only person I know who has ever robbed in the middle of the night when he was home was this guy who was showing off his gun collection at a party and bragging about what he'd do if an intruder broke in, and the next night people broke in and took his guns. We used to live in a really crappy neighborhood when I was a kid. Got burgled in the middle of the night more than once. The most memorable one was the night that they did our house over while my older brother, he would have been like 18 or so, was visiting and had slept on the couch. They stole the TV and VCR that were sitting no more than 5 feet in front of him while he slept. I remember waking up to hear him asking Mom if she'd put the TV away in the night, and when she said no in a puzzled voice, he said, "Well then I think we must have been burgled." He was all calm about it until he realized that they'd pinched his half-full packet of Winfield Reds as well. My wife was traveling through Hungary on a train. She was in a sleeper car with another woman and her kids. Before they all got to bed, my wife asks if it was okay if she locks the door with her bike lock. The other lady gives her a weird look but says fine. Wife locks the door. The next morning, they wake up to people in the next car screaming. Wife and other lady listen by the door and figure out that burglars came into the train during the night and stole people's luggage, plus stole wedding rings off of people's fingers while they slept. The woman in my wife's car went wide-eyed and gave my wife a big hug. I've never seen a shoplifter getting caught. With all the time I've spent in stores throughout daily life over the years, I figured I'd see it by now. Either the shoplifters are that good or store loss prevention is that bad. Or I live in an honest town. My sister used to work at Target in high school, and they had multiple shoplifters that they caught. Most of the time, she said the shoplifters just complied with orders and nothing got too loud or anything. Only once something big happened, and the security guard at the place got bit by a woman shoplifting. And then the next day, the woman came back to the store and got arrested. Why would you go back? You bit someone. How do you think they won't recognize you? Trees falling in the woods. Baby pigeons. I have seen thousands of adult pigeons, but never a baby pigeon. It's like they just spawn like full-grown pigeons. I acquired a pigeon colony for a while due to my unwillingness to kill things. It all started because a pigeon couple laid eggs on my patio, and before the babies could fly, there would be new eggs. And local bird rescue places were like, we won't take pigeon eggs. It took 1.5 years for there to be a gap for me to deal with the situation properly. They even laid eggs all winter. But yeah, they definitely make babies, and they are really ugly and make a sound that is almost like screaming. Someone with a new iPhone and 5 kids buy steak and lobster with their food stamp card and then drive away in their Escalade. An undocumented worker taking a wanted American job. Millennials who have been damaged by PC culture. I guess you've never heard the console peasants bashing, eh? Thanks to PC culture, consoles have gotten progressively more expensive and unnecessarily powerful. The human eye can't see past 24 frames per second. Why the hell are we paying for 60 frames per second now? And 4K? We can't resolve more than 1080p. This PC culture can go to hell. Past the PS2 consoles are just ridiculous wastes of money. That they stayed in a haunted house and witnessed objects inexplicably moving, or sounds with no source. I don't buy it. Finding money. I found a $20 bill floating in the water at the beach once. 8-year-old me thought I was the richest guy alive. Drug dealers giving the drugs out for free the first time. Meeting Bill Murray. Kind of a stretch, but not once have I met a person named Muhammad. With it being the most popular name in the world, statistics say I should have at least met one, right? The name is super popular where it originates. Because of this, most people choose to go by their middle name. This is what my professor does. My professor has 2 brothers. All 3 of them have the same first and last names. Please don't blast me for this. Catcalling. I've never seen someone get catcalled. None of my friends have ever catcalled, and I've never catcalled. I've lived in 2 major metro areas and a rural area. I totally believe that it happens, and it shouldn't, but my girlfriends tell me they get catcalled daily. I live in the US. I'm sure it's worse in other areas. In my experience, I only get catcalled when I am on my own and not in crowds, so it doesn't surprise me that some men don't witness it very often. Women getting mad at men when talking to a child in public. I always see people talk about it on here, and I'm sure that it has happened. But as a fellow dude, I've never been given a strange look or bashed at for waving at a kid or interacting with them in public. The trickle-down effect when it comes to wealth. Saving 15% or more on car insurance with Geico. When I switched my bike insurance from Progressive to Geico, it legitimately went from like $120 to $34 a month. I'm 70% sure that somebody at Geico made a major clerical error, but I'm rolling with it. I have never seen a person in real life get upset at someone for saying Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Life gets better. Nobody I know who does CrossFit talks about it any more than people who really enjoy working out, but aren't in CrossFit. If anything, the woman I know who runs marathons talks about her workouts way more than anyone else. People who watch Big Bang Theory. Supposedly, it's one of the highest rated TV shows, though I've never met anyone who would admit to watching it. The keyword there is admit. Rodents of unusual size. A true miracle happening. Not the kind of, found my keys, thank God, but the one special the smaller Christian community tells you about. I read and hear so often about people having broken legs or arms repaired, but it always starts with my brother told me or a friend saw this happening. I'm sitting on the bus and I laughed out loud at this comment and everyone stared at me. I've never seen anyone laughing to themselves and thought that they were insane. Original questions on Ask Reddit. I've been an atheist for most of my life, and I've met a lot of other atheists who complain about Christians trying to shove religion down their throats. I honestly have never once had anybody try to convert me to Christianity. Stray cats and dogs on the street just waiting to be taken to a loving home, but you see them pretty regularly on r/ah. I've never met a strange cat that obviously wasn't already owned, or an absolute bruiser of an alley cat that won't even come near a human no matter how much you chase after them with treats. I have a stray cat that hangs out at my house all the time. She's been here every day for about 3 years now. One of my wife's friends is on Facebook claiming that people think women who have had a C-section haven't really given birth or aren't real mothers. I've never heard anyone say that, and I've heard a lot of stupid things in my time. I've never seen a newborn baby sleep through the night. Although lots of women claim that their baby was the best baby, he or she slept through the night from the first night we brought them home from the hospital. That's a lie and you know it. Stop trying to make yourself look better than other moms. Babies are trapped in darkness in utero. They don't have daytime/nighttime worked out yet. Plus, newborns have to eat every 2 to 3 hours in the beginning, damn it. I honestly think at some point we go into autopilot. There have been mornings where I woke up and was confused because I thought my son slept through the night and my husband was like, nope, you got up with him and held him and wouldn't let me help you. I've never known or heard of anyone actually winning one of those Publishers Clearinghouse giant checks. Political poll taking. I'm over 50 and have never been asked about who or what I would vote for. I have asked around and no one I know has ever been asked. So where do they get those poll results? Who do they ask? I've been polled twice, and I'm 30. I held a membership to a political party from 18 to 27. I refused to be a part of it after a decision they made on some policies. Based on the cartoons and Western movies, I expected that quicksand would have been a much bigger issue as an adult. Someone winning more than a free order of fries, pie, or drink from the McDonald's Monopoly game. I somehow expect to be downvoted for this, but ghosts and paranormal events. My neighbor is freaking psycho when it comes to it. Listen, maybe ghosts are real. You never know, and there is probably no way to prove if they do or don't, but I guarantee all those paranormal things she and many have happened to them are bullcrap. I've seen many even use this to make them feel special. Oh, I'm very in tune with the dead. Spirits are all around us. Lady, something fell off the shelf. No, a ghost didn't knock it off. You're not being haunted. I'm not knocking every event that has happened to some people, but I'm positive many are overreacting. After learning about sleep paralysis and all of the crazy crap people can see and hear during episodes, my belief in paranormal activities has dramatically decreased. Those national polls. I've never once been polled for anything. After having been to haunted homes, hotels, etc., they killed my childhood fascination with the paranormal. So thanks guys, you can stop with the witching rods and flashlight gimmicks. Traditionally speaking, if it's owned and operated by a person, it's not haunted. I went to Hell's Gate in New Jersey, and while I can't say it was haunted, it was utterly terrifying. People not being mad after they say, "Be 100% honest, I promise I won't get mad." I hold doors open for women and men all the time. No woman has ever given me a feminist rant. Despite the dire warnings of the DARE officer back in elementary school, I got through my entire school career without a single person trying to pressure me into smoking pot. My husband cleaning the house. Lawyer up. Old people being nice and young adults being rude. Never see it, but I see the opposite all the time. Pregnant Asian. I'm convinced the babies are grown in rice fields. LOL. Last year, when I finished up my contract in China, roughly 1 in 3 of my female coworkers were pregnant. One-child law had just become the two-child law. Meeting anti-vaccine people. 26 years on this planet and have never once met a single person who believed in not vaccinating their children, and that even includes social media. Yet people make it sound like it's such a significant and polarizing issue. Guys, I'm flattered you're all responsive to my post, LOL, but I get it. They do certainly exist, and some of you have met some. I suppose it's just a vocal minority group, and since I don't have children and don't often associate with people with children, that probably limits my interactions with these people. My cousin doesn't vaccinate her kids, and her youngest has Down syndrome. He's been in and out of the hospital so many times, and he's not even a year and a half old. He gets illnesses in his lungs easily because his muscles aren't as strong as a child without Downs. This is what I've been told. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just can't imagine why she's putting all 4 of her kids' health at risk for diseases that can kill them. Especially his health, since he's the least able to fight any of it off. It pisses me off to no end. Muslims are Middle Eastern people plotting against the USA and the US citizens. As a university student and an employee of a large hospital, 99% of people from different countries or cultures are always extremely nice, and it's the Americans that are huge jerks. Especially the Americans in the 40-plus range. I get talked down more by middle-aged American women than I do very well-educated doctors who are not American. That says a lot to me. Adding on to this, the people who believe that Dearborn is a hotbed of jihad activity with the active no-go zones for non-Muslims. I grew up in Metro Detroit, worked in Dearborn for many years, and know many people who live there and have never seen any ounce of real proof to support these claims. I live in London and have never been harassed for drinking alcohol or seen any Sharia zones. Relationships. A no smoking within 50 feet of an entrance rule actually working. People on welfare buying lobster at the grocery store and then getting into a Lexus in the parking lot or similar. I've never seen it ever. I don't know about you guys, but I've never even seen quicksand. Participation trophies. I'm a child of the 90s and was a very non-athletic kid who was forced into sports. I was a prime candidate for getting a participation trophy. I've never gotten one and never seen one. I've spent around 25 years in the automotive field, mostly with new car dealers. I was 13 years with Ford and the other 12 years with Honda, Volvo, Nissan, Buick, and Polaris. I've worked in all areas including parts, service, and sales. In all my life, I've never seen a coworker rip off or try to rip off any customer. I've also never ripped off a customer. Have you ever seen an Asian in a wheelchair? I haven't. A popped or blown tire on a vehicle. When I bought my most recent vehicle, I was asked if I wanted to purchase the package for tire protection, to which I replied no. My family and friends were shocked that I didn't, because apparently puncturing a tire is pretty normal. I've never seen it, nor have I had it happen to me after 15 years of driving. You've never seen someone changing a tire on the side of the road? I've only been driving 6 years, and I must have seen that 24 times. Child Protective Services unjustly stealing children from perfectly good parents. I've seen it. My aunt hated my auntie Loretta because Loretta wouldn't take care of her. They're both grown women. So my aunt planted evidence in Loretta's house and called CPS. Got the kids taken away, but luckily my auntie Loretta was able to prove it was planted. Dating somebody for their personality. Every couple I've ever met, it's clear why they're together, and it's never because one of them is just so funny. Physical attractiveness, socioeconomic status, and reasonably close priorities and values are why people get together. No personality overcomes shortcomings in those areas. So true. My fiancé has a fantastic personality, but I didn't notice that the first time I saw him at a crowded bar. Woman with the name Ladasha. Unsurprisingly, my friends who lean conservative always know someone who totally had an experience with a Ladasha, and then they go on to complain about how stupid the name is. It's a myth from an old chain letter. Yeah, I looked it up once. I just think it's interesting how often people are like, no, I know someone who met someone named Ladasha, without thinking for 1 second that their friend might be full of crap. Foreigners or refugees stealing our jobs and/or harassing everyone. Muslims. Right-wing people are always talking about the Muslims coming in here and being everywhere and all that, but I've only ever met like 3 Muslims in my entire life, and 2 of those people I only met once at a mosque. The other was a classmate in high school. I live in a fairly diverse area. There is a big Muslim community here, and I have quite a few Muslim friends and acquaintances. I think it's important to remember that Islam is a religion and not a race. So you can't always pinpoint who is Muslim unless it's made obvious or they tell you. Millennials who are supposed to be these whining, underachieving people. My kids are millennials and they are mostly tough as nails. And I should add it all comes from them. Christian persecution in the US. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and then hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is uploaded. And if you aren't yet, please subscribe. It really helps. For more videos just like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.